Ari, you gave it a good go yesterday with Stephen Jones and asked a question that as soon as you asked it, I was like, that's a good question. There's no chance in hell he's going to answer that with any sense of what you're looking for. And he was like, well, we've had a lot of complete teams and we're just focused on this next game. And I was like, sure. But it was interesting because there was one team that immediately jumped into my mind. So it's been 26 years since the Cowboys made it to the NFC Championship game. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl that year as well. There's one team that immediately jumped into my mind, and it's the 2014 Dallas Cowboys team. And I already see some people saying 2016, and I definitely get that as well. I'm not here to take that away from anybody, but in 2014 with DeMarco Murray, it felt like you can impose your will on a team because you had imposed your will on Seattle. And this was at a time when if you beat Seattle, it means a lot. Now I know Pete Carroll's just we don't need to tear it down. We just need to fix some things. You're like, cool. Is it one of those things but when you beat Seattle in 2014, that mattered. And it mattered a lot. And so I looked at that team and I was like, the Cowboys are telling you, hey, we're probably going to run the ball a lot. What are you going to do to stop it? Nothing. And then when you didn't run the ball, you still had Tony Romo, who had the best season of his career by doing less. And he didn't have to play hero ball. 2014 was the optimized version of Tony Romo because he didn't have to play hero ball, but could still roll out those plays when necessary. So when you ask that question, 2014 was immediately what jumped to my mind. But I would love to hear from you guys and the Tolos.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this kind of all year because I think you have to say the most complete Cowboys team in the last 25 years because obviously, we could look at those 90s teams and say those were pretty complete teams. They won a bunch of Super Bowls.
Yeah, they were at the top of the heap in defense and offense.
Right. So it's more about over the last, plus, I'm 37, 36. So, I was growing up in the 90s.
Sure how old you are? What year were you born?
I'm 36.
Okay.
The look you just gave me.
I was like, this is a deja vu conversation. Again, I hate to keep bringing up Jess, but she'll tell me how old she is. And I'm like, oh, hun, that is not how old you are. And she's like, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, it's not.
Do the math.
Yeah.
At any rate, so, I'm 36, so I grew up in the 90s when the Cowboys, whatever year. But so I'm trying to figure out, for people listening to this, what age do you have to be where you're I don't really remember that era. Yeah. It's probably right in that window between 30 and 35, I'd imagine. But I'm just saying within the last 25 years. Here's the thing about 14 and 16. Was Jason, I'm going to say something that's mean-spirited. Was Jason Garrett a good coach?
One of those years, I thought he was named Coach of the Year.
So, ergo, he would be. In hindsight, though, would you classify Jason Garrett as a good head coach?
I would not.
So, I think that's part of the idea of a complete team, because granted, he was the Coach of the Year that year, I believe.
And I do understand the complicated dynamic of that and I think one of those years, it was maybe 14, that Jerry Jones was named the Executive of the Year after hearing for 20 years that he was trash. And I get it. I reflect on the Jason Garrett years, and I don't think he really optimized everything that was happening here. But I also understand that in one of those 2 years, I'm pretty confident he was the Coach of the Year. So I get that's a difficult dynamic.
But you're exactly right. He definitely was Coach of the Year one of those years. I would say a lot of people mention 07, but that was a Wade Phillips team, not a Bill Parcells team. So again, I go back to complete teams. Let's pick out a Bill. If we're talking about, is this the most complete team since, or this is the most complete team, or this one is the potential to have that, I think it's got to be a Bill Parcells team. I don't know if Mike McCarthy is as good of a coach as Bill Parcells. He's got to win a few more Super Bowls to get there. But I certainly know that he's a better coach than Jason Garrett and Wade Phillips and Chan Gailey and Dave Campo.
Okay, I still think maybe Chan Gailey never got a fair shake, but
that's fair.
We probably can't litigate that right here and now. But now, to your point about 07, that is interesting to me because that 07 team, they were the cream of the crop in the NFC throughout the year. And I remember that loss against the Giants. It felt shocking because you had already beaten them twice. You were the number one seed. You had a home field advantage. I know the ball went through, was it Patrick Creighton's hands? But you felt like a front runner that year. So I did think that was a pretty damn good team too. But your word complete is interesting. And Bucky Brooks is with you, from, I believe, NFL Network. He said the 2021 Cowboys are the most complete version of a Dallas team in years.
See, I think that this team is the best team the Cowboys have had in the last 25 years. Like, this is the best version of the Dallas Cowboys since they last won a Super Bowl. Now, it's easy to say that in hindsight because none of those previous 25 teams got past the divisional round of the playoffs. But I just think they check every box. I don't think Mike McCarthy gets enough credit. Like, a lot of people want to divorce Mike McCarthy from their 11-4 record. I think that's silly. You just can't do that with a head coach.
Yeah.
Now, I realize I say that after saying that Jason Garrett wasn't a good coach, but I just think Mike McCarthy's a better coach, more willing to evolve, a lot of things. Then I look at the talent, like, go back and look at, like, T.O. was great, top-end talent, but then the receivers beyond T.O. How much of a drop-off was there? Look at the receiving core that this team has.
Yeah.
So I just think in terms of roster composition, in terms of the playmakers they have on defense, we talked about that earlier, the coaching staff, full picture, I think this is the best version of the Dallas Cowboys in the last 25 years.
This is really interesting. I hadn't thought about this before. The Cowboys are good in these 7-year sprints, 07, 14, and 2021. That is a very odd
that is weird.
Odd little combination
so
right
random.
There. And, okay, so then my question is, does that, because there are a lot of people saying 2007, and then unfortunately there are a lot of sad things weighing in about I'm 29 or I'm 32 and I don't particularly remember. I think that's unfair. Like, if you're like, I mean, you feel however you want, but if you're 32, that means you were 18 in 2007. That was a really good Dallas Cowboys team. Like, I know they didn't end up going to where we all hope, but that was a good Cowboys team. My question for you on the other part of this is, does that just raise your expectations? Because when you describe things like that, I can't help but think, okay, then we should be making a run at the Super Bowl.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And that's why you bring it up, because this team hasn't been in an NFC title game for 25 years.
26.
Is the 14 year is the Dez catch.
Yep.
That team was really good. That team was really good.
I know.